Mike Randall stood on his porch at sunrise, clutching a crumpled letter as the Texas wind howled through the empty barn. His barn, now sold in 4 minutes to a stranger. A vacate notice flapped like a death sentence in the breeze. But what happened next will shock even those who thought they'd seen everything. But first, let's go back to the beginning. Mike didn't scream. Screaming was for people who still believed someone might listen. He just sat there, muscles clenched like rusted bolts, fingers trembling as they folded the letter back into its envelope again and again, like he could reverse time if he folded it just right. The porch light buzzed with dying moths. Somewhere in the pasture, a horse whinnied, restless, sensing the shift, the tremor of something unraveling deep in the earth. The anger came first, sharp and clean like a blade. It carved through the numbness, cauterized the disbelief. He'd served this country. He'd survived IEDs, aircraft malfunctions, night raids, the slow torture of coming home to a place that no longer felt like home. And now some bureaucratic hiccup, 1,727, had undone 30 years of sweat, calluses, and prayer. The number mocked him, indecently small compared to the enormity of what he'd lost. Inside the barn, his tools were still arranged with surgical precision. Saddle oil, fencing pliers, hay forks with their steel tines glowing faint in the dark. Mike had kept everything in order. He believed in systems, believed that structure, once earned, was a bulwark against chaos. But this wasn't chaos. It was something colder, more calculating. Legalized theft, lacquered in bureaucracy, and hidden behind dead-eyed smiles. Carl Bauer didn't need the land. He didn't even see the land. Not the hoof-worn trails, the windbreak trees Mike planted in '98, the spot under the mesquite where his wife's ashes were scattered. Bauer saw lines on a map, dollar signs, acreage to be stripped, divided, and sold with the same dead-eyed detachment he probably brought to every planning meeting, every vote where people like Mike didn't exist outside a spreadsheet. Mike's fists clenched on his knees, nails digging into weathered denim. He remembered the county hearing, not just the mic cutting off, but the expression on the chairwoman's face, blank as drywall, as if she'd already moved on to the next case. His voice, dry and deliberate, trying to explain what the ranch was, not just what it cost. But words aren't real estate. You can't outbid a man like Bauer with memories. And then came the pain, not loud or sudden, but slow, curling through his ribs like smoke. It was the ache of watching something die that had once saved you. The ranch had been his wife's idea, back when she was strong enough to imagine things like peace. They'd bought it together the month after his final deployment, back when he still had night terrors, and she still had the strength to hold him through them. She'd taught him to plant tomatoes. He taught her how to weld. It was theirs. Was. Now, even the dirt felt different. Betrayed. The horses had stopped grazing, standing instead in uneasy clusters, as if waiting for something they couldn't name. Mike didn't move for hours, just sat there, under that vast, merciless Texas sky, the stars sharp as shrapnel, holding the photo of his wife like a lifeline. The wind moved through the mesquite trees like it knew him, like it remembered, and it whispered things he wasn't ready to hear. Behind him, the paper on the barn door flapped once, twice. Vacate in 14 days. Mike didn't cry, not because he wasn't broken, but because he'd already cried once, 2 years ago, at a hospital in El Paso. And what followed now wasn't grief. It was the silence that comes after. The day the ruling came down, a cold front rolled through the desert, unseasonably sharp for early spring. Clouds gathered like witnesses, low and heavy, draping the horizon in slate gray. But in Mike Randall's chest, something else stirred, a lightness he hadn't felt in years. Not since before the hospital, before the folded flag, before the creaking silence of a house too big for grief. Something old and half-forgotten had begun to burn again. Not rage, not sorrow. Hope. It had started with a ping. Captain Erica Mills was eating chow in a hangar lit by halogen strips when she saw the post. The headline read like a gut punch, "Veteran loses ranch in predatory tax sale." She didn't even need to open it to know. The name hit her like shrapnel. Mike Randall. He'd been her tech sergeant, her field mentor, the one who dragged her out of that burning wreck north of Kandahar when everything else had been smoke and screams. She owed him her life. And now, finally, she had a way to return that debt. Within minutes, a network snapped into place. It was military instinct, fast, coordinated, relentless. Erica texted 10 old teammates with one message: "Mike's in trouble. We fix it." The response wasn't just affirmative, it was immediate. Those 10 reached out to 20 more. Messages flew down the chain of trust. Drone techs in Nevada, a surgeon in Baltimore, a retired colonel in Anchorage. They remembered Mike's laugh, his temper, the way he checked on the junior guys after every op, even when his own hands were shaking. At 11:03 a.m., Erica launched the campaign, "Help us buy back Sergeant Mike's ranch." The goal was $180,000. Some doubted they'd hit it. She didn't. The first donation came from a medic in North Carolina. "Owe that man everything." Then a widow in Oregon. "He taught my husband how to ride again." The numbers surged. Every second, a new ripple in a tidal wave of digital solidarity. There was no marketing plan, no PR firm. Just a story that cut through noise and found its mark in the quiet loyalty of those who get it. By mid-afternoon, the fund had crossed $300,000. The media caught wind. A national radio host aired the story between weather updates and gas prices. Then the banner, "This ranch stays with the vet." It tore across a Texas air show, caught on cameras, went viral. The internet fed itself, but this time for good. Carl Bauer, greedy and smug in a downtown law office, tried to raise the stakes. $250,000 or condos. It backfired because while the money was ready, a team of veteran JAG attorneys, quiet, precise, and fiercely motivated, had dug deeper. They found the flaw. A procedural crack, improper notice delivery. Bauer's claim unraveled in court like cheap thread. The judge's ruling was blunt and final. The lien was null. The sale, illegal. The ranch, restored. Mike didn't say much when Erica called, just listened. When she said, "It's yours again," no strings, he went quiet for a long time. Then, "Tell them thank you, all of them." But gratitude wasn't the point. The point was that he came home again, not to a flag, not to a folded letter, but to his porch, his barn, his sky, to horses that knew his scent, to a field where roots ran deeper than memory. The war had taken much. The country had taken more. But this was his. And this time, he kept it. The day Captain Erica Mills landed in Alpine, Texas, the wind carried the scent of mesquite and justice. A sky spread open like an old hymn overhead, big, blue, unapologetic. The kind of sky Mike used to stare at after long days fixing tail rotors and feeding goats. Now, under that same sky, redemption was waiting. Erica stepped off the regional jet in desert boots and dress blues, not for show, but for honor. Her medals clinked faintly against her chest. Her left hand gripped a worn leather satchel filled with nothing but letters, handwritten, typed, scrawled in shaky penmanship. Veterans from across the country, sending messages to Mike Randall. Some called him a brother. Some didn't know him at all, but recognized the shape of his story. Sacrifice, abandonment, and something harder to define: return. The driveway to Randall Ranch was lined with parked trucks and minivans. Flags fluttered from antennas. Kids played in the dust with sticks and laughter. Women in sundresses carried trays of deviled eggs, banana pudding, and foil-wrapped brisket. Men in weathered ball caps and starched jeans leaned on fence posts, swapping deployment stories and watching the horizon. The crowd hushed when Mike stepped through the gate. He wore the same boots he'd worn in Kandahar, the sole split at the arch, laces mismatched. His hands trembled slightly, not from age, but from everything that had nearly broken him. For a moment he just stood there, frozen between disbelief and awe. Then the wave hit. Cheers, hollers, applause that cracked open something deep in his chest. In front of the barn stood a sign painted in bold, sun-hardened letters, Randall Ranch, never for sale. He nearly dropped to his knees. Erica caught him by the shoulder. "Still standing, Sergeant?" Mike looked at her, eyes wet. "Only because you wouldn't let me fall." They hugged, tight, wordless. Not a reunion of friends, but of survivors. Later, under a makeshift awning stretched between two horse trailers, Mike took the mic. No notes, no speech, just gravel in his voice and 30 years of earned silence finally giving way. "They tried to take my land," he said, "but they didn't just fail. They woke something up. I'm not the only one who's been hit by this. I'm just the lucky one who got pulled back." He paused, looked out at the sea of camo ball caps and worn faces. "We're going to pull others, too." That afternoon, he announced the launch of Ranch Recon, a nonprofit funded by the overflow of donations from his GoFundMe. Its mission: to locate and assist veterans in rural counties who face illegal or unethical property seizures. Lawyers volunteered before he even finished speaking. A retired CPA offered free audits. 3 young vets from El Paso promised to build the website. No one needed to be asked. Everyone already knew. 2 days later, a freshman state senator introduced the Randall Act on the floor of the Texas Capitol, legislation to outlaw blind Lien auctions without personal notification, and to grant exemptions for qualifying veterans and the elderly. It wasn't a partisan issue. It was human. The bill carried the momentum of a movement stitched together, not by lobbyists, but by scars and stubborn hope. And Carl Bauer? He vanished from the spotlight he once courted. His name was now a cautionary tale, whispers in courthouse corridors and real estate offices. His plans for luxury condos crumbled under public outrage. His license was stripped by the board. He packed a U-Haul in silence, left town at sunrise, and not a single neighbor waved goodbye. But none of that mattered as much as what did stay. A porch light glowing again at Randall Ranch. A mailbox with fresh paint, and horses grazing under the wide-open sky of a country that, for once, had remembered how to honor its debt. Mike stood there each evening, the land under his boots solid again, watching the wind sweep across the pasture like a promise, never for sale.